emotions. You don't want her to know you're upset, and she doesn't want you to know she's upset, but the reality is you kind of feed off each other's energy. When I call and she's down, it kind of changes my energy. When I call and I'm down, it changes her energy. So, of course, it's an absolutely frustrating situation when it's totally different conversation when you're guilty. When you're guilty of the crime, you can accept responsibility. You can say, I'm sorry. You can do whatever you can to try to move past it. But when you're completely innocent of the crime that you've been incarcerated for, the conversation isn't the same. You don't get an opportunity to say, I'm sorry for putting you in this situation, because it's not your fault you're in this situation. You can't say, I'm sorry that you had to pick my son up from school today, because it's not your fault you're in this situation. So it's a totally different conversation. It's respectable that, she was as strong as she was. Without her, none of this is possible. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you if it weren't for her. So her strength was my strength, and vice versa.
How has things changed over the years? Do they check on you every day? Do they check on you every now and then? Is it the same as what we see on television?
Who you
like
referencing?
when you watch it. Okay, so that's like how they hit the baton on it, and they tell everybody to wake up inside the prison, inside the jail when it's time to do anything. Are they even checking on you on a regular? Is it a certain time that they just come by and it just becomes a routine, so it lets you know what time it is within the system?
They're supposed to make rounds once an hour. They're supposed to check on every person once an hour. That's because it should be once every 30 minutes. They're supposed to make rounds. They're called rounds, where they walk the unit. And they're supposed to, visually observe each person. Now, to what extent that actually happens on the hour, that's debatable. I'm sure the union would argue that they do it every hour on the hour. I mean, from the other perspective, that's not a complete truth.
If you could change something within the system, what would you like to see happen? What difference would you like to see made?
Accountability, for sure. I would like to see more accountability. When somebody breaks the law, I would like to see them held to the same standards as everybody else, right? I don't want to see a separate system for people that, wear a uniform or walk in the courtroom and wear a suit. That's not fair. There's no justice in two separate systems. There's no fairness in two separate systems. Whatever happened to equal justice for all? It's not equal when two people commit almost the identical crime and one gets 40 years and one gets 10 years. I was not long before I was released from prison, I read a newspaper article where a guy from Lansing had he'd committed 4 murders and was suspected of 2 more. He was sentenced to 25 years. But yet, we just seen a news story just 3 weeks ago where a guy got caught with a couple of pounds of marijuana, and he was a third habitual with a gun, and he got 40 to 60. Make that make sense to anybody, where this guy admittedly killed 4 people and is suspected of 2 more and got less time than the guy that didn't kill anybody. He killed a bag of marijuana and got 40 years. That doesn't even make sense. You got almost twice as much time as a guy that actually admittedly went in front of a judge and said, I killed 4 people. And you got less time than the guy that got caught with a bag of marijuana and a pistol that he never used.
Wow. And those are very good points. And I'm glad that you bring that to everyone's attention, because this is true. This is something that we definitely know about our system. And it needs to be looked at. It needs to be examined. So we do need people to come into position that can try to change, how things are. Because without change, then everything stays the same. What was it like when you came home and you got the opportunity to see your family again? What emotions ran through?
injustice had finally been lifted. Even though at that particular moment I didn't realize that the fight wasn't over, but it seemed like a building had been lifted off of my back.
And once again, I commend your team. And for those who may be just tuning in, we are talking live with Kenneth Nixon right here on the Let's Talk About It show with Ms. B, and he is joining me from Detroit, Michigan. And I am streaming live from Southern California, so I thank y'all for tuning in. Is there anybody that you want to personally acknowledge while we're on the air? Anybody you want to say something to?
I would like to say something to the people in power, the people that hold the purse strings of the justice system. I would like to say that regardless of how much you don't like it, change is coming. Regardless of how much you don't agree with it, change is coming. Regardless of how much you could care less about the description of or the thought of what you think change is coming. With or without you, with or without your agreement, change is coming. There's a whole new generation of people with a whole new thought process, and people are starting to realize that the system is broken, and people are taking action. People are mobilizing. There's a lot more funding behind the movement. There's a lot more change. There's a lot more progressive-minded people that are tired of the status quo, and people are pushing the envelope. Change is coming.
You're not the first person to say this. If anybody has ever followed my show, or if you ever go on my website, a lot of times I deal with unsolved cases, and sadly to say that nobody's never convicted, nobody's never brought to justice, nobody is even found, nobody contacts the parents, nobody follows up with the case just lingers on after a murder or a crime has occurred. And we have several mothers that beg for their stories on a monthly, daily, weekly basis, and they come to me because nobody has contacted them. Nobody, after years, 7 years, has even reached out to say, this is new evidence with the case. And it's 11 years now for me dealing with these type of stories. So for you to have dealt with this situation for 15 years and been innocent, now you, on the flip side, you have a mother or father whose child has been murdered, unfortunately, and then there's not even someone from the police department that follows up, someone from the police department that has a piece of new evidence. And so now they're solving their own crimes. They're solving their own cases, not only in Detroit, but in Pittsburgh. I just had a woman who found her own brother's killers. And I'm like, wow, you did it yourself? And yes, she is being recognized by her community leaders. I've actually combed the neighborhoods, the streets, and helped families because they felt hopeless. And it just had been years before they had heard from anyone. So they decided, like, enough is enough. This is the anniversary date. And for the anniversary date, we're going to comb the streets. And then, boom, something odd and miraculous happens as to where, sadly, we discover a body ourselves with the community leaders. So that's what my life has been like. And over the years, since 2010 up into 2021. And we had to call the police and call them to the scene and say, look, we didn't solve this crime. So what is happening? What are they doing? So you're not the first person to say that the system needs to be looked at. The system needs to be evaluated. A lot of people in position we need to vote, we need to change, but yet and still, even with the voting system, they still miraculously end up back in office. So we're trying to understand this process. So I have a team of people, personally myself, that I know would love to become a part of whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is that is bringing change and bringing a better system. I can have mothers, I can have fathers, I can have people who I'm quite sure would like to join your crusade and to speak out against the justice system, because it's definitely a break to where there's some type of non-connection. I don't know if it's being ignored. I don't know, whatever the disconnect is. There are, just like you said, there are people who are ready, and they are ready to speak out. They've been speaking out. So this is nothing new that the Detroit police has been involved with, and finding out. But not only in Detroit, I mean, in Chicago, in Pittsburgh, people are marching. Like you said, they're taking the streets. They're actually going out and building their own following in reference to these cases, because they're tired. They're overly tired. They're exhausted, and so something is definitely coming and happening with the change. And I commend you for pushing the envelope. I commend you for being a part of that. And I just think it's just an amazing thing. God bless you. God bless your family. What was some of the things that has been offered to you? I'm just curious, now that you're out of the system, has there been anything offered to say, hey, or do you just let go, or are they trying to provide you with clothing? Is there anything that's been extended to you?
You mean from the state, from the government side?
Yes.
From the government side, they've offered me some resources. In Michigan now, we're able to, exonerees are able to get the same benefits as if you were on parole. But, however, that's a recent change. Like, they didn't always have that, written in the law, where exonerees were allowed to participate in the same programming efforts and housing and different situations, different programs that now we get. So to answer your question, they've offered me assistance with like getting set up with food assistance from the state. They've offered me work programming, work training, trade school training, assistance with helping to get employed. The basic stuff to help you get on your feet. They as if I was on parole, the same opportunities that a parolee would have, I've been given those same opportunities.
Is that enough for you? Is that a fresh start? Is that going in at 19, coming out at the age that you're? Is that what you are satisfied?
I don't know if you can ever be satisfied, right? Nothing can replace the time you lost. There is. I don't know if satisfaction would be the appropriate word. Am I content? Probably not. I mean, you can never have enough in this situation, right? Because eventually the resources run out. It's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, right? They shot me with a shotgun and then gave me a finger Band-Aid and told you to, here, I'll put this over it and we'll figure out the rest later. You stick your finger in the hole and hopefully it'll stop bleeding and you'll figure out the rest later on. Like, it's not. There's no such thing as being content in this situation. I mean, I could only take advantage of the opportunities they gave me and try to figure it out from there. It's honestly, it's a bitter pill where the people that have are offering you an opportunity as if this will ever be enough. This is your form of an apology by, helping me navigate a computer program to sign myself up for benefits. And it'll never be enough. But the fact is, it's available, and I plan on taking full advantage of it. It's a step in the right direction, considering where I just came from, and considering some of the guys that came before me that didn't have those opportunities. So, not only for me, for the guys that came before me, I plan to take full advantage of every available opportunity that they put before me.
Would you like to see like a program implemented or developed to where once you come out, you're able to start working? Like there's work for you, or because now you have to figure out a way of employment. But first, you got to get your ID. You gotta get all your documents back together, and so that may take some time.